to me that there was this ocean of consciousness back of him, and in some way that focused and flowed through his words. I heard him say, "Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God." And I had heard those words all my life, and I have the idea that most people have, that sometime, if you lived a certain life, you would come in contact with a divine person or something like that. As Vivekananda was speaking, the purity of that personality was so great, it just seemed to me divinity was reflected in it. It was as if his mind was a limpid lake that was reflecting a divine light. And with every word he spoke, other people speak words and they have no idea of the value. Every word he spoke was a revelation, because he brought with it the realization that he was living. Other people that I'd heard on the pulpit and all that sort of thing, and I'd heard about the best, they speak from a standpoint of faith, that they have faith in a divinity and all that. And I began to realize that this man was speaking from something that he was living, that every word he uttered came from a state of realization, such a realization as the ordinary person can't imagine, you see. And at one time, as I listened, I felt that he was so established in the realization that the soul was eternal, that he could stand before a cannon without fear. And I seemed to sense that if this form vanished, that a light which was shining through it would stay there forever, that it would never disappear. It was a strange sensation at the time. But there was a purity and an intense power, such a power as I think we have never seen, and I have never seen, and I don't expect I'll ever see it again. It just seemed to pour from an infinite source, and he was perfectly calm, perfectly reposed. Another thing he said that fascinated me was "face it." And he told the story of how he was walking along a broad wall, and an elderly monk was back of him. And suddenly a vicious ape appeared, and this ape was about to attack him, and Vivekananda was about to turn and run, and the monk said, "Face it." And he turned immediately and faced it, and he felt that power that conquers the beast. And the idea that he gave us was that there was that within man that could face any situation that came to him. And those words have always stayed with me. I've never forgotten them. The one thing that impressed me very much, that there was an absence of the sense of ego. And I saw eventually what that was, because his whole awareness was turned to that inner vision, and where the ordinary person has the sense of the little ego, Swami Vivekananda's the sense of I had expanded into something that was vast and deep and very, very pure and very, very powerful, because it just penetrated within and it aroused something within that never was there before. Someplace he has said that you never see without you anything that isn't within. And I think perhaps his great power was that he perceived the divinity in all form. And he perceived it to such a degree that he awakened it in his listeners as he was speaking. Because his whole personality was absorbed in this vision, which certainly was vast, and it seemed to fill the whole space back of him. It's the only person that I've ever seen that there seemed to be no limit to his personality. And it wasn't like our idea of a halo or anything like that. It was just as if this outer form was so tuned to something that a realization that was all power and purity and beauty. It was a beauty that just flowed through every word that he spoke, every phrase, and as I say, every word that he spoke took on a different, you had a different conception of the words. And as he spoke, just veil after veil fell from your eyes, because you sensed this, the vastness of realization, which before I think we have an idea of a sort of an abstraction. But it was like a tremendous joy or something like that. And I don't think he could possibly have made an awkward movement, and he couldn't possibly have struck a false tone, because he was so tuned to something that was all harmony, all beauty. There's no one that has appeared at the Metropolitan or on any stage that had that wonderful voice, or that had that wonderful magnetism. He just seemed to be a center of spiritual power, and that emanated from him. And still he was always calm. But every line of his body followed his thought. It was just as if this outer form was floating on a great light.
In the latter part of 1900, Swamiji left America for India via Europe. Madame Calvé and Miss MacLeod accompanied him. He arrived at Belur Math in December 1900. He was happy to see his brother monks again. He inspired his brother disciples to spread the message of Ramakrishna all over India. Like Vivekananda, Mahatma Gandhi was a great follower of truth. His own words about truth were,
"There is an indefinable, mysterious power that pervades everything. I feel it, though I do not see it. It is this unseen power which makes itself felt and yet defies all proof, because it is so unlike all that I perceive through my senses. It transcends the senses, but it is possible to reason out the existence of God to a limited extent. Even in ordinary affairs, we know that people do not know who rules or why and how he rules. And yet they know that there is a power that certainly rules. In my tour last year, I met many poor villagers, and I found upon inquiry that they did not know who ruled. They simply said, some God ruled. If the knowledge of these poor people was so limited about their ruler, I, who am infinitely lesser in respect to God than they to their ruler, need not be surprised if I do not realize the presence of God, the King of Kings. Nevertheless, I do feel, as the poor villagers felt, that there is orderliness in the universe. There is an unalterable law governing everything and every being that exists or lives. It is not a blind law, for no blind law can govern the conduct of living beings. It can now be proved that even matter is life. That law, then, which governs all life is God. Law and the lawgiver are one. I may not deny the law or the lawgiver because I know so little about it or him. Just as my denial or ignorance of the existence of an earthly power will avail me nothing, even so my denial of God and his law will not liberate me from its operation, whereas humble and mute acceptance of divine authority makes life's journey easier, even as the acceptance of earthly rule makes life under it easier.
Later, he described his attempt to see Vivekananda in his book, My Experiments with Truth. Having seen enough of the Brahmo Samaj, it was impossible to be satisfied without seeing Swami Vivekananda. So with great enthusiasm, I went to Belur Math. Mostly, or maybe all the way, on foot. I loved the sequestered sight of the Math. I was disappointed and sorry to be told that the Swami was at his Calcutta house, lying ill and could not be seen. Swami Satprakashananda, the founder of the Vedanta Society of St. Louis, met Vivekananda at Dhaka in 1901. He described his meetings.
She passed away on the 4th July in the year 1902. 1902. On the previous year, see, he passed away on the 4th July 1902. On the previous year in 1901, in the month of March, toward the end of March, he visited a city in East Bengal, the principal city of East Bengal, Dhaka, where I lived. It was on that occasion that I had the blessed privilege of seeing him 3 days. Each visit was very short, but it left a very indelible impression upon my mind, which has been a source of inspiration all these years, and has been at the back of all that I have good and great in me. Because I saw him filled with great admiration for him. And how it happened, I shall tell you now. This was in 1900, in the beginning of spring. Next year, I noticed that house was being, a little decoration. In front of the gate, there is an open gate, and then there is a yard, open yard. And then there arch, they were making an arch. I said, what is this? It is to welcome Swami Vivekananda. See, it is, Swami Vivekananda is coming. Yes, Swami Vivekananda is coming. When will he come? He will come in the afternoon at such and such time. After the school hour, I lost no time to come to that place, to that in front of the house. And at the time, due time, a Lando carriage came. And there I knew two persons, they were the lawyers, government prosecutor. There was one, Ishwar Chandra Ghosh, another one, Gagan Chandra Ghosh, prominent lawyer of the city. And there must have been others also in a large Lando carriage, open Lando carriage with two horses. And then Swami Vivekananda was dressed with this much. The kind of shirt I put on in the morning, that kind of shirt, as far as I remember, he had ochre cloth, and he had what is called a turban, ochre turban, and a very heavy marigold flower garland. So he came by railway train, So these gentlemen went to the railway station to receive him. When he came, the carriage stop, I was standing just there. Very few persons were there. And then they helped him to come down. I had not the sense of doing anything, bow down to his feet or anything. He also saw me, so I was standing there. So then he was taken, escorted inside the house and taken upstairs. By that time, many came. The whole yard was filled with people. And they went upstairs. Then Swami Vivekananda was also probably taken upstairs to his private room. And then people gathered around him. I thought it was all grown-up people. I was a very young boy at that time, you can imagine. Like 1901. So I came away. This is first visit. Then second visit, but I was very close and saw him very clearly. Even now I remember that face. Yeah, Turner as far as I remember. And then, again after the school hour, I came back to see, to just have a glimpse of Swami Vivekananda. That was the purpose. Then I was waiting there, and Swami Vivekananda came down. And there were a few others. And then he had a stick in his hand, and this time he has a long robe, what is called alkhella, long robe, and he has a cap. Swamis in India use a kind of cap. He had the cap and long robe and a stick in his hand. Then he, in the yard, he followed, and I also followed him. There are several others, and then crossed the street and went to the other side, and then he went to the embankment of the river side. On the river, there is a very well-built embankment, and there is on the other side of the embankment, there is a green park where the children play also. So many people go there, particularly the retired men and boys, go there for walking, playing, and all these things. And many take walk on the embankment. So Swami Vivekananda also went there. I followed him to some distance, and then I came away. Because we were not old enough, and we did not use dress good enough to go a long distance. So we used to play here and there. So this is the second time I saw her. This also is a very clear visit. Even now I remember. Then the third visit was, I came as usual to the house in the afternoon, and then I did not see him. I inquired about him. Well, where is Swami Vivekananda? He has gone by boat to such and such place. There is a ceremonial bath they used to take at that time in the river Brahmaputra. And as far as I remember, he had with him in the party a mother, I think one or two sisters he had. So he went, before he came to Dhaka, he went to one place of pilgrimage called Kamakha in Assam, the farther east of Dhaka, east of Bengal. And one of his purposes of this visit was to take his mother for pilgrimage to Kamakha. As far as I remember, I'm not quite sure of that. So he came, so there was in the same house, it's a very large house, about 60 rooms the house, and different sections this house has. At least 3 yards it had, courtyards. And then, so I could not see him because I was told he has gone to the river Brahmaputra, and with the houseboats have taken them. And then a few days later, I was told that he was staying in the houseboat. Just one houseboat I found. I went to the riverside at once, and the boat was there. In those boats, there used to be 2 rooms, one large room, one small room for bedroom, one very living room, large. On both sides there were benches, and on both sides there were all large windows on both sides. And then at the back there used to be it's called the restroom there in the back of it. So I went there, very close to the boat. I saw Swami Vivekananda was pacing up and down in the larger room, which is used as living room, and all windows are open on both sides. The boat was lying this way. at anchor. The boat was lying this way, and he was walking, and he in this posture he was walking. And he had no cap or hair that time, and he was not very clean shaved, and he had what is called some kind of, what you call the undershirt. We used to call Guernsey frock in India. So that kind of thing he had used, or yellow, ochre cloth, and this much. And then he was pacing up and down. I went there, I was forward. Other boys are not so impressed the way I was impressed. And they were somewhere, the boys at back. I went forward, and close to the stairway, there is a wooden stair they put in. Very close to that, some Vivekananda came forward. And he put his hand on one of the windows this way, and was looking at us. Then, then, about that time, some gentleman came in, and